Hi there, it's Paul John Elliott from MyoLife and Stretching Canada, Canada's authority on active isolated stretching. So this series of videos that we're doing is going to be about active isolated stretching and how you can affect positive change pretty much anywhere in your body by yourself. You can take courses through Stretching Canada, but with the videos I just wanted to give you an idea of how easy it is to do this by yourself, how easy it is to learn this by yourself. So before we go any further, let me try and explain the difference between active isolated stretching and other forms of stretching. They're not wrong, they're not ineffective, they're different, but they also could be more effective if we use the physiological laws that we use with active isolated stretching. Now, traditionally, let's say we hold a stretch for 10, 15, maybe 30 or more seconds, and you feel, that sensory rich kind of burning and tearing and pulling, but it's not necessarily a stretch. The muscle's elongating because, the forces of everything else against it are greater than the strength of the muscle. A muscle will eventually go into an eccentric contraction as it elongates, but the emphasis here is on the word contraction. And a contraction means that the muscle is working, it's not in a state of release or stretch. So there is a fundamental law, physiological law called Sherrington's law, which states that a muscle will do one of two things. It'll contract or it'll release. It'll never do both at the same time. So if a muscle is in a state of contraction, even if it's an eccentric contraction, a muscle that's in a state of contraction will never release at the same time. So the only way to get a muscle to release is to get a signal from its opposite side to we're contracting, you have to release kind of a signal. So I'll use my hamstrings and quads as an example. If I want to get my leg to extend, the only way I'm going to get these muscles to release to allow for that movement is to get a signal from the quads. Contracting, you have to release. That's just the way it works. So as this contracts, it sends a message to the hamstrings to release, and in that state of release or relaxation, we can get into a full extension or a greater stretch. Now, that's one part. That's the active component, and the active component by default isolates a certain area. If I was going to contract here, I'm isolating the top end or the proximal end of my hamstring. Contracting this end, the distal end, I'm going to release the distal end of the hamstring. So this is how we actively set a signal to isolate those muscles. So active, isolated. Now, the 2-second stretch, the 2-second rule, when a muscle has stretched up to its myotatic reflex or its stretch reflex, the muscle sends a message to the brain saying, this is kind of uncomfortable and potentially dangerous, please do something about it. And the message from the brain comes back saying, okay, contract. And the Golgi bodies in the tendinous areas of the muscle will get that signal first and start to contract. So if I'm in a state of eccentric contraction, after 2 seconds, I'll start again. If the muscle is releasing because I'm telling it to from here, after 2 seconds, it's going to start to feel a little uncomfortable and you start to get bend or get that shakiness in the leg. That's the myotatic reflex saying, I've had enough, I'm going to start to contract, and it does. So with active isolated stretching, we'll get into that state of release right up until the point where we feel that myotatic reflex, where we're challenging those tissues, and then come on back down, get some air in, and then as you release back out, or contract back out, excuse me, and breathe out, the body will go into that state of release and relaxation and allow for that stretch up to about 2 seconds, and then the myotatic reflex kicks in, and we take advantage of that. The body says, whoa, that's enough, come on back, and so we do. And then we can allow for more oxygenation. The brain doesn't pick up any signals of discomfort, and it's associating the movement with the movement and not with discomfort and pain. And that's really that's the fundamental difference. We have an active component, a release, isolation component, and the 2-second rule, so that we're going to the edge of discomfort where you feel the muscles start to be challenged, the tissues start to release, but we never go into pain. And we use the myotatic reflex, or that stretch reflex, to our advantage. So these are the three main components that I want to get across before we go into any of the hamstrings or the shoulder or the neck stuff. It's a 2-second stretch with a gentle assist, or a gentle assist, or a gentle assist maybe against a wall, or using a rope to, it depends what the stretch is going to be. But these are the fundamental differences that we're going to cover with all of the stretches in active isolated stretching. So again, I'm Paul Elliott from MyoLife, Clinic of MyoLife, and Stretching Canada, the authorities on active isolated stretching in Canada. If you want to learn more, if you want to take a seminar with us, go to the stretchingcanada.com website, follow the teaching tag, and it'll give you a list of all of the seminars that are happening across Canada for 2011-2012. Enjoy your stretches. Take care.